What it is?
All right. Welcome back. Another week. Doing some live Q&A tonight. Just pop your questions in the chat. You're on mute.
Yep. So episode 70 getting closer and closer to that 100.
What's that?
At episode 70, we're getting closer and closer to that 100.
Yeah, we're getting there. Might have a special giveaway at 100. Right? Put something good together.
Yeah.
So,
What's up, guys, popping in here?
People popping in. Yeah, you guys ask as many questions as you need to. When you're slowing down on questions, we got a whole bunch of subscriber questions ready to go for you. So what's going on, everybody? Welcome. Johnny's
What's up, Johnny?
asking on Twitter, are you guys mostly wholesale?
Yeah, so for those that don't know our background, we started in retail arbitrage a long time ago, like before 2018, 2019. Went full time to wholesale then. And so we are all wholesale, 100% now, brand direct wholesale. If you have any questions more specifically on like the business model or whatever, happy to answer those as well. But we've just found that it's been really the unlock for us and our growth. And it is safe, consistent, and reliable, as we like to say. And that transition's hard, right? I mean, coming out of something like arbitrage, speak to that a little bit, what that's like. A lot of people deal with that.
Yeah, I mean, it can be, there's similarities between wholesale and arbitrage. For one, in the sense you're buying name brand products. So like with wholesale, we're not reinventing the wheel, right? We're buying products. We can see what sells. We're looking at Keepa. We're making an informed buying decision. The difference is in how you access your inventory. So with wholesale, you can get your inventory on a consistent basis. The problem with the way most people do wholesale is that they're really just going one step to the side of arbitrage, and in some cases one step down. And why do I say that? Well, because a lot of times people don't properly vet their suppliers that they buy from, and you're actually better off buying from like a major retail chain in arbitrage than you are from a supplier that's not vetted. And so if you're going to do that and you're going to jump on what seems to be a fantastic deal, I would recommend just like you're safer with arbitrage.
Yeah.
But when you do wholesale, I mean, there's two avenues you can go. You can go directly to the brand, which is what we do, or you can go to an authorized distributor. So there's nothing wrong with buying from distributors. You just have to make sure they're authorized.
Yep. And what's the best way to do that usually? I mean, pretty simple and straightforward, but how would someone make sure their distributor is authorized?
Yeah. So, I mean, the first thing is you can go directly to the brand and get a list of authorized distributors. You can ask the brand explicitly, can you please send me a list of authorized distributors, and make sure that distributor is on there. You can explicitly ask the brand, is this distributor one of your authorized distributors? And they can validate that. If you're unable to get a hold of the brand, then you have to have some sort of supply chain or ability to track that inventory to having been purchased directly from the brand. So that's either showing an invoice between the distributor purchasing the inventory from the brand, it's showing a redacted document from an agreement between the distributor and the brand, something proving to, God forbid, Amazon, if something happens, you have the proof of supply chain.
Yeah. Yeah. We've always found too, and we talk about it, like if you are intentionally doing something against Amazon's terms of service, then that's when you run into issues. But for the most part, as long as you're trying your best to do everything within TOS, you're usually going to be able to find a way out of it. Right. So knowing that a supplier is not authorized and then purchasing from them anyway because it seems like a good deal is often a very short-sighted thing, which is going to lead to an account suspension or one of those things that we see all the time. But if you're doing the due diligence, I think that Amazon gets a lot less scary because you're playing by the rules, right? We're not looking over our shoulder at anything that we're doing wrong on purpose, and we're still able to run a very profitable business out of it.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I mean, that's, you know, like I said, sometimes wholesale is it seems to be like a good model, but if you're doing wholesale in the wrong way, it could kind of come back at you. Just want to shout out Nylan on Instagram. What's going on, man? Good to have you back in here.
Good to see you, man. Second follow-up question here from Johnny says, what category do you guys mostly sell in? Um, and honestly, we're very category agnostic. Like we talk about that all the time, and I think it's a good way to approach things at the beginning, because at the beginning you don't necessarily have the best skill set in the world, which is normal. Like we didn't either, but if you're limiting yourself to a particular category in the beginning, like you're really limiting the opportunity. And so we don't sell in or position ourselves in any particular category as an expert. What we do is we take the approach of, we position ourselves as the Amazon expert, that is able to help the brand. And the commonality of all the brands that we deal with and we sell is that the representation on Amazon is not what it could be. And that's really the standpoint that we take. Um, that being said, I mean, we do avoid some categories such as high-end electronics, tons of returns, clothing, apparel, anything like that. We avoid supplements just because of regulations, things of that nature.
Yeah, yeah, supplements. I mean, some of those supplements will bring back some bad memories. I mean, we had an issue years ago with like a prescription type thing, and just ever since then, we kind of stayed away from it. Anything compliance heavy, like, you know, I mean, it's one thing to sell like a sports supplement, but any type of those like detoxes or anything kind of like um, borderline making claims is just a complete no.
Right. Yeah, you can't make claims in any of your Amazon listings that like prevents this or cures this or like anything like that. Um, you can't make any definitive claims like that. It's against the terms of service for any listing. Doesn't even have to be in supplements.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
There's a ton of opportunity out there. It's like people say, you always hear the like, is this saturated, or brands like, can I still reach out to brands and find success? And there are so many brands on Amazon. It just comes down to reaching out in volume at the beginning. Um, just because you don't sell in a particular category doesn't mean that you're not going to be successful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
This is a rare tea drinking night. You drinking tea as well, or no?
No, I'm not. Just that's the only cup that I had.
Was that
Everything's
water?
good.
Drinking water out of a coffee cup?
I'm drinking coconut water, actually, out of a
That's
coffee.
somehow worse.
Yeah.
So what I was saying to you the other day, I feel like anything that is in a clear glass should be cold. And whenever I get something in a clear glass that's hot, it kind of messes me up.
Yeah. Yeah, I hear you. Um, Gonna be popping up some questions here in a moment.
I got a couple here off of YouTube as well. One of the questions in here is, what was the revenue like in the first 3 months of starting the business? I mean, what did that look like? I think there's a lot to unpack in that.
Yeah. The very first 3 months.
Yeah.
I mean, well, I mean, for those, I mean, I'm sure most people know by now, but for those of you who don't know, Brandon and I, started doing this business on our own, and then we met down the line. And so the way I started was I started in Q4. And remember, I was telling you this story. It was actually a funny story years ago. Basically, I started in private label, and so I was having a product, manufactured. I ended up getting a sample, but I just ended up not pursuing it because it was going to be way too costly. And so I was under the impression that in October I was having my sample done in China, and I thought I was going to have my inventory ready for Christmas with private label. Never launched, never did a thing on Amazon before. It just goes to show, like, beginners kind of, it's like the learning curve in the beginning, but eventually pivot out of that, went into retail arbitrage and then wholesale. So, I mean, really, if you make the right moves in the beginning, like you can, I mean, we've seen sellers go from 0 to 7 figures in less than a year, right? We've seen sellers doing, 40, 50, 60K months in their first 3 months. That is definitely doable if your ladder is on the right wall, as we like to say. So you could spin your wheels for 3 months and never make any progress and never realize any revenue. But if you have the right systems and the right framework, you can definitely be profitable in, well, I mean, month one, right? We're selling. That's the beautiful part about what we're doing, is we're selling products that already have demand. We're not doing private label like I tried to do and made the mistake and cost me $5,000. We're doing a business model that we can jump into and start making money right away. So to that question specifically, you know, in the beginning, like it took a few months at least to start making money. And I didn't start making money until I started doing retail arbitrage.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I mean, and that's like making money in the first couple months of a business is not, I want to say not normal, but I think it's a rare occurrence. Like Amazon is one of those few businesses that you can just start and be profitable within the first month, which is a pretty amazing opportunity.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially with, I still stand by it, as much as, like, people will talk about reselling as not being a long-term play, even though it is. But I honestly think that this is the fastest way in period in online to make 10K a month, which is most people goals, right? I want to make
Yeah.
5 figures a month. 10K a month, you are not going to do it any faster than selling name brand products on Amazon. Like, it's the fastest way to get there, in my opinion,
Yeah.
right? Like, I mean, there's plenty of
Yeah.
ways to make money online, but um, I'm sure there's other ways that, I might not know about, but it's just such a simple, low risk way to make money online.
Yeah, and then kind of a follow-up to that, I have another question in here that says, how to start reaching out to brands if I've never done it before, right? So, like, you talk about this, the beginning of a business, right? Like the very beginning, what did that process look like in retail arbitrage? And then at a certain point in our lives, we had never called a brand before. What does that process look like to someone that is just completely new to the process, and how do they need to approach it? Like, what's the best way based on your experience and our experience doing this for a ton of years now that would be the best way to approach it?
Yeah, well, I mean, I remember specifically when I first started reaching out to brands and contacting them, and I didn't really know what I was doing. I was kind of stumbling on my words. I was sitting at the kitchen table, picked up the phone, called the brand. It was a fairly larger brand, but I had to go through it. Just, people say like that, how much competition there is now. Like, people don't realize there's always competition every single year. Like 5 years ago, when I called my first brand, they were telling me no Amazon sellers. Fast forward today, they're still saying no Amazon sellers, right? Like, it always is going to be like that. The difference is, back then I didn't know how to overcome it, and now I do. And so what that's like in the beginning is, it's about, you have to be putting in the reps. If you're not making those cold calls and pushing through that resistance and immersing yourself in the fire, you are not going to grow. You're not going to get better at calling brands, calling distributors. You're not going to get better at it because you're not putting in the reps. It's like anything else. Sourcing enough companies, contacting enough companies is going to allow you to understand what the limiting beliefs are from these brands, what their pain points are, and it will allow you to start to see patterns and trends to then overcome them.
Yeah, one of the only things that I really, because both of us are very much so the practitioner mindset where we kind of just want the action. Like we just focus on the action. But when we talk about starting to make cold calls and starting to get into this business model, after having done this for many years at this point, I always go back to developing a mindset early on, because even if someone is super goal oriented towards making these calls and putting in the work, even with the students that we coach, right? I see that down the line is that they might be making calls, but their mindset is not what it should be to get the success that they need. And often with just a small tweak here or there, we're able to kind of flip that mindset for them to give them the conviction and the confidence. And that's really what it comes down to. So, like, even if you're just going into this and you don't know what you're doing, you start making the calls. Oftentimes, it takes a little bit more guidance to just get from, putting in the work to being super confident in what you're pitching and what you're saying. And then we start to see the real success at that point after that mindset shifts a little bit.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Mindset is key, especially early on in building a business. Like it's that's the most important thing. Like if your mind is, if you don't have the right, mindset and support, right? Support is super important. Surrounding yourself with like-minded people. You don't want to be, hanging around people that are negative and just talking you down because you're in the beginning business phases of starting a business. You haven't realized a ton of revenue yet. You may have not even realized any revenue yet. And so to the outsider, it could seem strange what you're doing. And um, that could create negativity. And so you got to cut all that out, avoid it, and surround yourself with a like-minded community. Um, I do see Nylan here on Instagram. He's asking about, he's trying to ungate a brand, he's saying, I'm trying to ungate a brand. Amazon is asking me to send an invoice from my supplier's supplier. Have you ever heard of this request?
So you're saying that ungated brand, they're looking for, I'm assuming the manufacturer is different than the brand, and they're asking for information directly from the manufacturer. Is that correct?
Yeah, he's trying to ungate a brand on Amazon. And Amazon is asking him to send them an invoice from his supplier's supplier.
That's interesting. I mean, at the end of the day, like Amazon wants the supply chain um, legitimacy. So if the brand is the manufacturer of the product, then their information of an invoice should be good enough. And if they're not, then you might have to go one step further. But I have not really heard of that too much. Of you?
Um, yeah, so basically, the way I understand this question is that there may need to be a little bit more clarity around it, but the way I understand it is that he's buying from a wholesaler or a distributor, and Amazon is asking for the invoice from the brand, and he doesn't have access to that because he doesn't buy from the brand. Nylan, correct me if I'm wrong on
Oh,
this,
okay.
but that is actually that was something Amazon will ask for. They're not going to take all distributor or wholesaler invoices. So you have two options. Option one, you have to you have to get an invoice from the supplier that you work with, and that invoice is not for you. It's to show that that supplier you work with buys directly from the brand. And then number two, to go back to what I had originally said, you have to back that up with redacted documentation and or an LOA from the brand. That's going to strengthen your case with Amazon, right? And so but the best option is to just get the invoice directly from the brand. But if you don't buy from the brand, then you can't get that. So you're left with option number two.
Yeah, yeah, got it. That makes sense. I wasn't aware that it wasn't buying from the brand. Um, yeah. Definitely makes sense. Another question here, a little more granular, relating to shipping, right? So, um, basically asking about prepping items and what FNSKU labeling is and how to do that yourself. What is an FNSKU? So just some, like a complete beginner in the ship to Amazon world. And we talk about like there's all these terms and terminology that if you didn't if you're speaking to someone that never sold on Amazon, it sound like a different language. So like what's an FNSKU? Like how is that what's the purpose of having an FNSKU on the product to begin with, when you're sending in products to Amazon?
Yeah, so I mean, FNSKU is a unique identifier to identify your products to Amazon, and that way Amazon knows it's you. There's millions of, I don't even know how many sellers there are, but however many sellers are shipping into Amazon's warehouse. And so, how do they identify which inventory is associated with which seller? It's through the FNSKU label. So you have FNSKU label, and then you have manufacturer barcode or commingled inventory. Manufacturer barcode is just the actual universal barcode that is on the product, which comes straight from the manufacturer or the brand. You can sell under either in some cases. Other cases, Amazon requires FNSKU barcode. Generally speaking, when you have the option available, it's better to go with Amazon barcode. Um, because of the way Amazon pools inventory together. So with manufacturer barcode, when you send under manufacturer barcode, Amazon takes the inventory from all the sellers that sent into their warehouse and they pool all that inventory together. So if somebody else sells a product and I sell a product and then it gets returned on their part, Amazon can grab their return off the shelf, ship it on my behalf, right? So, I mean, that being said, there's a time and a place for commingled inventory, especially when there's like, you know, if you got to pay for the prep, like, if that costs a lot of money, if you're paying Amazon, which is not going to be happening next year, Amazon did away with that program. If you're paying your supplier to label those units, right? I mean, it all depends. You got to handle it case by case, but generally speaking, when available and optimal, go with the FNSKU.
Yep, definitely. I'm new to Amazon FBA, going to a trade show soon. What should I say to the vendors? Basically, what kind of questions will they ask? What answers should I give them? And how can I leverage being new to my advantage? It's a really good question, actually. Um, Trade shows definitely, I mean, we've seen a lot of success in meeting those suppliers face to face for sure. So, I mean, for someone just to expand past the getting on the phone, I mean, what are you saying to a vendor in person in a trade show? Is it any different? Like, what does that approach look like?
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, I would try to vet that trade show list before you go to the trade show, and see if the products sell on Amazon before you actually attend the trade show. Right, you want to have a key list of brands that you're going into the trade show with, or distributors. Right, I wouldn't recommend just going to a show having never looked at anything. I don't think it's an effective use of time, but those are some of the strategies that we talk about, right? Like it's you want to be sourcing the lists, the trade show lists, go through those lists and vet them, see what's selling on Amazon, see is Amazon on the listing, is the brand selling it themselves, all different things that you'd be looking at anyway. But sourcing through those lists is going to be the best, give you the most bang for your buck by going to trade shows. um, and just to follow up on Nyland's question, he said, "Yes, Brad, that's right. I am not buying from the brand. It's from a general wholesaler. Some of their lines has this transparency code on them." Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, first of all, let me just like step back and say, Nyland, probably the reason that this is happening to you is because you're not buying directly from the brand. You know what I mean? And that is the key to like, I think the best illustration of why this business model works is when someone brings up an issue like this, which is that this could be completely avoided by going the brand direct wholesale route, right? So we want to really just we want to proactively solve problems by doing the things that are not going to cause them to begin with. Not saying that it's your fault for doing it, but it's just a different way of looking at it, right? Um, as far as the transparency goes and whatnot, um, you know, if you receive that product and there's no transparency codes on it, you are not going to be able to send it into Amazon to begin with. But if it does happen to have the codes on the product, that brand is trying to do everything that they can to control, what's going on with their products on Amazon and in other channels, right? So if you're basically going against what the brand wants to do, right, then you're obviously going to get a supplier verification or something like that. So I'm not necessarily going to speak to how to solve this problem because I think the way to solve the problem is to not do it in the first place. And I think that's for anyone that is selling through distributors, that it's just you have to look over your shoulder a little bit. Um, not a position that you want to be in, not a position that I would want to be in. So um, yeah, I'd reevaluate on the sourcing perspective.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, still, like if you buy from distributors, that's fine, but you got to make sure you're still authorized to sell the brands on Amazon.
Yep.
If the brand is strict about their Amazon presence, like some brands just straight up don't care, and then you could still buy from distributors. But that's going to be your best bet. You know, um,
Yep.
circumventing all those issues about transparency labels and everything. We got Johan here on Instagram. What's going on, man? We also got Miles, Flips for Miles, the man himself, asking, how do you handle the we don't sell to Amazon sellers? That's the $1 million question, right?
Yeah, yeah, it is. I mean, I think that really like what we look to do is it's just like if you follow any sort of general sales content, it kind of is more like that, like as opposed to just thinking about yourself as an Amazon seller. If you study sales in general, it is about constantly uncovering the need from the prospect. And that's really what we're doing as well. We're in a bit of a different business model because in our business model, we are trying to convince them to let us buy their product, which is a little backwards, but that's really all it is. So if we don't sell to Amazon sellers, well, why is it that you've had issues with your Amazon presence for the past X amount of years? What does that look like for you? How are you handling the e-commerce presence? Right. The more we can uncover what their problems are, the more that we can understand what their needs are, provide value to those needs, which translates into us being able to stock the product and sell it profitably.
Exactly. Yep. That is the exact framework, guys. You got to overcome these objections. But you can't to go back to what we said earlier on, right? You have to put yourself in the fire. You got to put yourself out there into the resistance in order to even start to see progress, right? You're never going to understand how to overcome these objections if you don't even know what they are, right? And so the best way to start to get a grasp on what these brands are saying and start to see patterns and trends is to just start making calls, doing the outreach, and sourcing the right kinds of companies. And the follow up on Instagram was about the transparency situation. Products has transparency codes on them. Initially, Amazon asked for 5 codes, then they ask an invoice for 100 units. I
Yep.
mean, a lot going on there. That's a big problem people are having now is Amazon's asking for invoices in the hundreds of units. What do you do about
Yeah.
that?
Well, that's also a perfect example of um, just because I can do it doesn't mean that I should. Right. Like because you can get a 5 unit transparency code sent in, like no problem if you find them in a retail store, if you buy them from a distributor, whatever. But you might not be able to get that 100. That's more so for like RA and stuff like that. But it's just one of those things where I wouldn't even take that risk to begin with. I'm firm on this, right? Is that I think that the best way to solve this problem is to reevaluate the sourcing method and the products that you're selling criteria wise.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I agree. Um, you know, it's that's the direction Amazon's going. They are favoring you know, pushing towards the legitimate and authorized resellers who are, carrying inventory directly from the brand. If you guys got any other questions, pop them here in the chat.
Got one in here as well that's asking about extensions, Chrome extensions to help with Amazon FBA with the sourcing process, just anything like that we use basically to help us.
Extensions, softwares. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's totally overplayed in this industry. You need two softwares. One of them's free. The Amazon Revenue Calculator and Keepa. Keepa's $20 a month. That's all you need as a beginner. Keepa's going to tell you how much the products sell. It's going to be your Bible for understanding demand on Amazon, competition. And why do you need Keepa? Because you can't look at the listing on Amazon and look at the price today. You have to look at the price and the sales volume over a historical period of time. And then the revenue calculator gets you your profitability per unit. And the reason why we use the Amazon revenue calculator is because it's directly from Amazon. And so, I mean, the fees are basically 100% accurate, So, yeah, I mean, as you scale, you can get into other softwares. Obviously, you'll need like inventory and accounting solutions. You'll need, you might get Smart Scout down the road, but when you're first starting, that's really, really all you need. And obviously your Amazon selling account, of course.
Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah. And Nyland's actually saying one more time, this is interesting. It's one of those brands that mainly supply for professional hair dressers. And that does not surprise me.
Yeah. Yeah. Doesn't surprise me either. The more industrial it is, they have probably a larger supply chain that they're trying to control, I would guess.
Yeah, well, it's a professional line, so they want to definitely control, probably because of the price. That's probably one of the most important things. And so they're using Amazon transparency to do that. Yeah, gonna have a hard time with that one.
Question in here says, question wondering to the relation of a website as someone that's just starting out. What kind of content would I put on a website before I've sold anything or established a wholesale account? Would it just be like contact information, maybe a mission statement? Would love to hear your opinion on this.
So, generally speaking, there's two kinds of websites. One is you can get a website that is a industry focused website that you actually show and carry products on. And then the other kind of website is you can showcase that you're kind of more so a brand partner, right? And the brand partner is more the angle that we lean into. Just a basic website, showing your value propositions. Don't make it, too underwhelming, but also don't, it doesn't need to be super crazy. Just a basic website, a few different tabs, show some legitimacy behind you. And if the brand ever asks, hey, do you have a website? You could be like, yeah, I do, but I also sell on Amazon. And so that's the websites.
Mm.
And so if you guys have any last minute questions here, pop them in the chat. Be wrapping this up here shortly.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, a lot of times the same questions that one person has, a lot of other people may have them. And so, even if it's as simple as, do I pay taxes on my sales or on my profit? Like someone else probably has that same question. It might seem obvious to someone, but other people just don't know. Everyone is at a different part in their journey. And so I think it's really important to share information and build that community element because you're not only helping you, but you'd be helping someone else that's maybe in the same position as you.
Yeah, definitely. And so if you guys don't have any last minute questions. Probably be signing off here for this week. We'll be back in action live next week. If you guys do want to work with us directly, links are in the description for our mentorship and community. Check it out if you're interested. And keep sourcing, keep scaling, keep building the business brick by brick.
Yeah. And we'll see you next week.
Peace out. See you next time.